He crash-landed expecting rescue. He didn't expect a Foxgirl War Academy to surround his wreckage with drawn blades. And before he understood their language, they were already calling him Den Father. The shuttle fell out of the clouds like a bad promise. Cole Hart kept one hand on the bucking yoke and the other clamped over the bleeding seam in his side, fighting the spin long enough to steer the wreck toward the only flat ground on a world full of knives and orange steppe cut with dry riverbeds and high basalt ridges. The ocean-gray sky flickered with stormlight. The hull screamed. The ground rose. Impact came as a roar and then a sudden surgical silence. Dust plumed. Panels rained. When the smoke thinned, the shuttle lay belly-torn in a shallow crater. Door punched outward like a held breath finally let go. Cole coughed metal out of his lungs and crawled into the light. They were waiting. Dozens of figures approached in a crescent, feet silent on the grit. Ears high and alert, tails low and steady, eyes like new moons under war paint. Each wore laminated training armor scored with red chalk marks. Each carried a blunted dueling blade in one hand and a live shot baton in the other. A single woman walked at the front, cloak pinned with a silver brooch shaped like a curled tail, Headmistress Kira Sable, if the rumors he'd heard on approach bands were true. She stopped 6 paces away and lifted her hand. The cadets froze as if leashed to her fingers. Cole raised both palms, palms out, empty. No weapon. No threat, he said, voice raw. The headmistress answered in her own tongue, consonants striking, vowels quick and clean. He caught almost nothing except the cadence of command and a word repeated like a judgment. Den. A younger cadet, a girl with frost-white hair and dark stripes fading along her cheekbones, stepped forward and sniffed the air. Then the shattered shuttle. She spoke softly to the headmistress. Another word repeated, gentler and stranger, Father. Kira's gaze cut back to Cole. She struck her staff against the ground. The sound rang the way a bell rings a valley awake. Cadets circled tighter, blades angled inward, but not to cut, more like to declare a perimeter. I don't know your protocol, Cole said, carefully. I need a medbay and a cum. Then I'm gone. The white-haired cadet blinked, then tapped her chest. Rhea, she said, then tapped his. Den Father, Cole flinched. No. That's not. Kira lifted a hand, stopping him. She spoke again, slower, almost formal. He recognized 2 old trade words tucked into the stream, guest and trial. Trial? He repeated, throat tightening. The ring of cadets shifted. Not hostile, decided. They parted at the far edge, ears twitching. A shadow fell across the wreckage. Evelyn Thorne stepped out from the glare with her 2 dragons moving like twin thoughts at her heels. Ashwin's bronze scales carried residual heat, the air around him wavering. Lumen's pale hide gave off a faint, steady halo that softened the hard lines of the crater. Wind tugged Eve's silver braid as she took in the scene, the wreck. The ring of Foxgirl cadets, the headmistress's measured poise, and the human raising his hands like someone very tired of being misunderstood. We're late, Eve murmured to the dragons. Not late, Lumen replied in her mind voice like cool water. Just in time to see a claim. Ashwin's frill lifted. They're not hunting him. They're testing him. Eve approached the headmistress and bowed palms together, thumbs at chin, the traveler's respect greeting. Kira returned a shallower version, eyes never fully leaving Cole. Headmistress, Eve said in trade tongue, warm and precise. I am Evelyn Thorne, neutral mediator under the Pacts of Passage. I request parley for the crash survivor. Kira weighed the title, the dragons, and the calm. Her ears eased half a finger width. This ground is a war academy, she answered in accented trade. Parley stands. So does training law. What law is at issue? Eve asked. Kira flicked her staff toward Cole. He fell in our territory. He did not break line or posture. He bled and stayed upright. The cadets saw him put a hand to the wreck to steady a falling pupil, her chin knocked slightly toward Rhea instead of shielding himself. He answered a crisis by choosing our young over his own skin. Cole stared. She would have gone under the panel. Kira's mouth did not smile, but something lighter moved beneath her expression. A den is not meat in walls. It is a choice repeated. My cadets call it den father. I can't be whatever that is, Cole said. I'll just slow you down. Rhea stepped to his side without touching him and turned, presenting her back to the ring. It was a small gesture with a sharp meaning and inexperienced fighter taking position inside a stranger's shadow and trusting his hands not to fail. Around the ring, a dozen tails flicked once in approval. Headmistress, Eve said carefully. By the Pax he is owed medical aid and contact. He will have both, Kira replied. After trial. What trial? Cole asked. Kira lifted her staff again and pointed beyond the crater to the training field, a maze of basalt walls and razor grass carved into geometric corridors. Our newest den guard proves the title in the hedge, she said. He walks with 3 of my cadets to the center stone. He keeps them uncut. He does not strike with anger. He returns or he yields. If he returns, he stays until the moons change. Stays? Cole echoed. Rhea's ears twitched, hopeful. 2 other cadets edged close. Tamsin, all flame orange hair and fierce eyes. Mira, smaller, careful, her tail tip drawing slow question marks in the dust. They looked at Cole the way lost things look at light. Eve's gaze flicked to the maze. A shimmer moved through the razor grass drones. No, not machines, wards. The academy had seeded the field with training constructs, pop-up trip lines, shock spear dummies, and whisper mines that fired harmless but humiliating bursts of dye. Harmless, unless you were wounded and tired and trying to protect 3 cadets who would test you at every turn to see whether your instincts were to push them away or pull them behind your ribs. Ashwin's low rumble warmed her calf. He's bleeding more than he admits. I can decline, Cole said, quietly. You can, Kira agreed. And you will be escorted to the gate, given water, and wished empty skies. My cadets will learn that men who hold the line until the wind changes are good. Until the wind changes. Rhea flinched as if struck. Cole's jaw worked. He looked at the maze again, the harsh lanes, the corridors of shadow. He looked at the 3 cadets waiting near him as if waiting near a story that could bend one more time toward good. He looked at Eve, who watched without telling him the noble thing, only holding his gaze steady as a level horizon. What happens in the hedge? He asked. Kira's ears tipped forward. What always happens? Something tries to make you choose yourself. Eve stepped closer to Cole and lowered her voice. If you go in, I can't help you. They won't allow it. I figured, he said. Lumen's halo brightened a hair. He can do this. Ashwin snorted. He'll do it even if he shouldn't. Rhea, Cole said softly. Tamsin, Mira, if I fail you, we turn around. No bravado. Tamsin bared teeth approval, not threat. We will show you where not to bleed. Mira nodded. And when to duck. Rhea's voice was a whisper. And when to be seen. They entered the hedge. The first corridor was narrow, walls poured from fused slag and studded with obsidian glass. The grass hissed against their legs, whisper mine filaments brushing for targets. Cole kept the cadets inside his elbows, not hurting, not leading, placing. Twice he took cuts meant for their calves, dye blooming blue along his shin. Twice he redirected Tamsin's eagerness into a safer angle, and once he simply looked at Mira long enough that her breath slowed and the whisper mine didn't trip. They reached the first corner and paused. Ahead lay a field of mirrored panes set at odd angles, reflecting 4 versions of their small squad back at them. In the reflection, one of the cadets lagged a little, and the man at the center kept glancing over his shoulder for rescue that would never come. A small, poisonous voice in the glass said, "You don't have to carry them. No one carried you." Cole touched the mirror with 2 fingers, left a smear of his own blue dye there like a signature, and moved on. Halfway in, the maze changed tempo. Panels snapped up. A dummy spearman lunged from a blind slit and caught Cole in the ribs hard enough to drop him to a knee. Rhea cried out. Tamsin charged. Mira froze. The dummy retracted and lunged again and hit a wall of light. Lumen stood on the ridge above the hedge like dawn breaking loose, his glow focused into a quiet plane across the corridor. Eve didn't move. She didn't speak. She only looked at Kira. The headmistress had already lifted one hand. An instructor's light baton tapped twice acknowledgement, not censure. "Witness aid permitted at observer's discretion," she said. No blade. No voice. Light only. Cole dragged in air, found his feet again, and laughed once not joy, but recognition. He motioned the cadets behind him and advanced into the pressure until the dummy's spear clicked harmlessly against Lumen's unseen shield. He put his palm on the point and pushed it down gently. "Not today," he told the training ghost. They reached the center stone, an old pillar etched with fox script prayers for first snow and safe return. Rhea whispered the words, and even Tamsin softened. Mira touched the base as if she had been forgiven for something she hadn't done yet. On the way back, the hedge changed one last time. A gate opened where no gate had been. Beyond it, through a clean corridor of sun and wind, stood a cum mast and a med van. Safety, speed. Cole stopped. Rhea's ears flat. A storm of dust rose behind the eastern ridge long before the sound arrived. Raiders didn't come quietly, not on this continent, not when terror was part of their tactics. They rode scavenged skybikes low and wide, their engines tuned to scream like beasts. No stealth. Just declaration. Cole stood at the inner threshold of the hedge with the 3 cadets. Clustered behind him, Rhea tense and forward, Tamsin itching to charge. Mira shrinking into stillness like prey waiting for a cue to breathe again. He turned slightly, voice low. "You stay behind me. No matter what you think you're ready for." Tamsin bristled. "We are not kits. We are combat cadets." "You're also still learning where not to die," Cole replied gently. "Let me buy time. You live through it." Rhea opened her mouth to protest, then stopped. Something in the set of his shoulders was familiar to her in a way she could not name. A den father did not cage. He absorbed. The instinct to step behind him wasn't submission. It was inheritance older than speaking. Mira whispered. "He is already doing it." On the outer rim, Kira leveled her staff and barked orders in a language of clipped syllables and tail sign. The elder cadets scattered to defensive posts, some to the high walls, some to the forward line. Bows and shock spears came off training racks. This was no drill. Evelyn Thorne remained at the crater mouth, eyes half-lidded, reading the air. Ashwin lowered his body, wings twitching. Lumen stood statue still, collecting light the way others gathered breath. "These are not skirmish raiders," Eve murmured. "They're probing for capture." "Or conscripts. Children?" Ashwin rumbled. "Or a prize they think is soft." Eve said. Her eyes drifted toward the hedge, toward the human. The raider bikes crested the ridge. In a loose wedge, 3 scouts. Then 5 outriders. Then a carrier sled dragging a heavy net gun. Faces masked, armor rust scrap and teeth trophies, bodies lean and hungry. These weren't academy dropouts or rival houses, they were storm scavengers. The kind that broke settlements and took kids as bargaining chips or leverage. Cole could not yet see them from where he stood. But he could feel the shift in the world, the way the field went from challenge to threat, from proving ground to crucible. Ria's ears picked up the approaching howl. They come fast. They always do, Cole said quietly. Mira tugged his sleeve once, childlike. We are not allowed outside the wall until our second right. Then you're not leaving this hedge, he said, with finality. Tamsin exhaled through her nose, sharp. You intend to fight them alone? No, Cole said. I intend to not let them touch you. Fight is secondary. Ria blinked. You speak like a den father. I don't know how else to speak anymore. The first 3 raider bikes hit the outskirts of the training field, only to meet a wall of archery from the roofline. Shock arrows crackled across their hulls, forcing them to veer. 2 peeled away. The 3rd tried to swing low toward the hedge, and Ashwing landed in its path like a meteor, tail slamming the ground. Jaws flaring with smoke. The rider swerved, panicked, and nearly lost his seat. That's right, Ashwing growled. Come closer. The rider did not. Lumen remained above Eve's shoulder, eyes like morning stars. The human holds. He does not panic. He chose before he knew, Ashwing answered. Kira shouted down the next order. Contain, don't pursue. The academy fought like mountains rooted, never reckless. Another wave of raiders swept in, testing weak points. They found one, a half-broken section of perimeter, where the mesa dipped toward a forgotten quarry track just wide enough for a carrier. Sled to angle through. Evelyn saw the attempt before the defenders. The sled wants the hedge, she said. Kira's head snapped sharply toward her. They want leverage. Children, Eve said, or what they think is an easy hostage. There was no time to reposition the elder cadets. The sled would reach the hedge before the archers could angle. Only one barrier lay between the raiders and the youngest students. Crash-weary humans standing inside. A training maze. Cole heard the deeper engine note of the sled before he saw it. Heavy. Built to ram or contain. Ria's hand gripped his sleeve. That sound, I know, he said. You cannot take them all, Tamsin said, voice tight. No, Cole agreed. But I can take the first one hard enough that the rest think twice. Mira's tail wrapped around her own wrist like a self-bonding knot. And if they do not think? He looked at her, steady. Then I give them a reason. The ground shook. The sled burst into view, wheels spitting gravel, net cannon primed. The raiders meant to breach the hedge wall and drag out trainees before the academy could rally. Inward, Cole stepped forward, not because he was stronger, not because he was trained for this war, but because someone had to intercept before the choice was ripped away from him. He set his stance in front of the cadets. Stay low. If they break the line, run inward, not out. Where will you be? Ria asked. In front of the break. The look she gave him then was not gratitude. It was recognition. The sled struck the hedge wall. Training reeds buckled. Stone cracked. The line held barely. The cannon armed. Cole braced, and the Foxgirl headmistress dropped into the corridor beside him like a falling blade. The cadets gasped. Cole blinked. Kira gave him a look strange and steady. You are too new to fall first, she said. Stand second. She planted her staff. Sparks shivered up its spine. And show them why my students chose you. Then the hedge behind them rippled. Evelyn leapt down into the corridor with both dragons flanking her. Cloak snapping like stormwind. When this hit breaches, she said. Eyes on the sled. We stand together. Cole breathed once. Then, let's hold the line. Kira struck the stone. Once, form. Ashwing's roar joined the thunder. The wall began to crack, and the first real war of his reluctant guardianship began to unfold. The raider sled hit the hedge a third time, and the wall gave way. Razorgrass and slagstones shattered outward, opening a sharp, jagged corridor straight into the cadet training grounds. Dust surged like breathless smoke. The net cannon locked onto its first target. It wasn't Cole. It was Rhea. The cannon fired, and Cole moved. He didn't think. Didn't measure distance. Didn't calculate odds. He covered, arms wide, body turning to shield her. The net hit him squarely. Electrified filaments searing through torn fabric and half-healed injury. The force drove him to one knee, but not through him. Rhea was untouched behind his shoulder. The white-haired cadet stared at his back in stunned silence. He had placed himself between her and pain like instinct. The oldest definition of den father her people had. The raider at the sled controls snarled and reprimed his gun. The next shot would anchor him, drag him out by line. But he never got the chance. Ashwing hit the sled like a thrown boulder, flames spiraling from his jaws. Metal screamed. The raider tumbled off the rig, rolling hard across the dirt before scrambling backward. Stunned. A second rider charged through the breach on foot. Kira intercepted him, staff twirling like wind-laced steel. The impact ringing his ribs and knocking him flat. Lumen vaulted the breach in a clean arc of light, landing in front of Mira, just as his shock spear came from the smoke. The weapon broke against the dragon's shield like a twig. Evelyn drew her blade, not to kill, but to contain. She walked forward with the eerie stillness of someone who knew exactly where every danger would land. A raider swung for her shoulder. She caught the strike on the back of her arm guard and relieved him of the weapon in a single movement. "Kira," she said evenly. Left flank collapsing. The headmistress nodded once. "Seen." Cole tore at the net, strangling his limbs and shoulders. But the weave was plasma-stabilized, meant to restrain combatants and resistors. His muscles trembled with voltage. TAMS, Einan dropped low beside him. "Hold still." A training blade isn't meant to cut steel, but she didn't aim for steel. She aimed for junction points, prying them loose with ferocious precision until one of the anchors snapped loose. Rhea knelt beside him and grabbed the second anchor with both hands, bracing her heel and snarling with effort until it ripped free. Mira, usually so quiet, leaned forward and pressed two fingers to the weave's binding clasp. With a deep inhale and a tiny hiss of concentration, she disabled the current instead of breaking the coil. The nerves in Cole's arms flooded back like ice thawing. He looked at them, 3 cadets. 3 fronts of instinct, ferocity, loyalty, precision. He did not just protect them. He led them without ever saying he would. And they answered like a den answering. A heartbeat. More raiders surged through the breach. This time they didn't come for the cadets. They came for him. "Take the human." One shouted. "They value him, he's leverage." Cole stepped forward. "You're welcome to try," he said. Not taunt-statement. One raider lunged. Cole pivoted, redirecting the blow into the slag wall. A second rushed in. Cole parried with the captured spear shaft, using no killing force, just enough to break stance. He fought like someone trained to reduce harm, not end it. Exactly the instinct a den binder was expected to show. Evelyn watched him out of the corner of her eye, while she held the right flank. Quiet. Respect warmed the back of her throat. He was chosen, before he even crashed. But the raiders had not emptied their quiver. The carriers sled a hulking, low-profile brute stabilized after Ashwing's attack and deployed. Something far more dangerous than a net. Harpoon rig, not aimed at Cole, aimed at the cadets. Kira saw the barrel tilt and sprinted, but she was too far. Evelyn shouted, "Ashwing!" The dragon launched, but not fast enough. The harpoon fired, and Cole, bleeding, shocked, half-bound, hurled himself between the shot and the girls. The impact slammed him back into the slag wall in a sickening crunch. The bolt scraped bone along his shoulder before thudding deep into the stone behind him. The cadets screamed his name. He sagged forward, but didn't fall. He pushed upright again. That one refusal to drop, to collapse, to break. That was the moment the raiders realized they were not facing a hostage. They were facing a dam. The raider squad leader snarled, "Forget the cadets, take him." But the cadet stepped in front of him this time, Rhea drawn up fierce, Tamsin blade ready. Mira trembling but unmovable. "You will not take our den, father," Rhea said. Voice shaking with fury. Not a student now. A cub claiming her line. Evelyn's voice cut across the chaos. Low and final. "Kira, you know what this means." The headmistress still. She did know. This wasn't training anymore. Not mentorship. Not soft bond emergence. This was a den claim returned. He had protected them first. Now they defended him. That was the second half of the right. The part no outsider could fake. Kira slammed her staff into the earth. With the force of a verdict, raid ends now. The academy's war wards came online. A pulse of light surged through the training grounds, halting raider weapons, choking engines, deadening shock lances in the raiders' hands. Every one of them froze. Helpless. The headmistress turned toward Cole. "You are inside our law now," she said, voice quiet but enormous. "Any who touch him without leave will answer to den blood law." The raiders backed off, not from her, but from what she had just invoked, because den blood law didn't punish theft with diplomacy. It punished it with obliteration. But the threat was not over. The carrier sled's pilot wasn't retreating, he was reloading. This time the bolt was tipped with binding resin, meant to drag. He adjusted, aimed. Cole looked up, and the world held its breath. The pilot fired. The harpoon screamed, and something vast and wind dropped from the academy tower like falling sunrise. Not Ashwing, the third dragon. The one no outsider had seen yet. The one they kept hidden for war. It landed between the harpoon and the cadets. A flash of obsidian scales and furnace eyes, and crushed the bolt mitter with its jaws. The raider pilot saw his future an inch before it arrived, and fled. The field went still, then quiet gasps. Not fear. Recognition. The dragons did not defend outsiders, unless the outsider was already considered family. Cole's legs trembled. Rhea caught his wrist to steady him. Tamsin braced his other side. Mira laid a shaking hand over his ribs as if willing air back into him. Looked at them, and realized when the hedge broke, it wasn't only the wall that gave way. It was the line between stranger and belonging. Kira met Evelyn's eyes. "He is den," the headmistress said. Evelyn nodded once. "He always was." The battlefield quiet did not feel like victory. It felt like recognition. The raiders limped backward across the broken perimeter, stripped of advantage, their engines disabled by the ward pulse. The remaining ones who still held weapons dropped them when they saw the obsidian dragon uncoil to its full height, wings broad as a courtyard canopy, heat rolling off him like warning thunder. No foxgirl cadet moved to finish the fight. They didn't have to. The law had already spoken. Cole sat where he'd slid down the slag wall, shoulders scorched, breath uneven. The harpoon wound wasn't deep enough to kill him, but the shock and impact had bled him through grit and strain. His vision swam at the edges. Rhea knelt at his right side, eyes sharp and unsettled. "You should not stand. You have tearing in the shoulder lattice." "That's bone," Cole muttered. "That is what I said." Tamsin stood between him and the horizon, tail high, scanning for a second wave that never came. Mira pressed gauze to his shoulder with trembling gentleness. He'd never seen anyone try so hard to be brave and not cry at the same time. Not since before the war, when little sisters waited outside barracks for news. Their brothers would never return to give. He swallowed. They were children still. Warriors in training, but young. And someone had to remain between them and the world until they no longer needed that line. Kira approached last. She dismissed the raiders with a minimal gesture. They would be dealt with later, under restraint, once counseling squads arrived. Right now her attention was not on them. It was on him. She knelt, not as an equal, not as a supplicant, but as a witness to a turning point. The headmistress of a war academy lowering herself to eye level with a wounded outsider was a symbol older than scripture. "Cold heart," she said. "You understand what has been invoked?" "Not really," he answered honestly. "You carried cadets behind your ribs. You stood between blow and blood. You endured injury without abandoning the circle." "I didn't have a choice," he said. "You did," she replied, "and you still chose them." She glanced toward the crater. "You could have walked through the false gate. You stayed anyway." Her gaze sharpened. "You did not protect them. You claimed them. Instinct before oath." He looked at her, chest tight. "I didn't claim anyone." "You did," Kira said softly. "By act, not word." Evelyn finally stepped closer, cloak brushing the dust. Ashwin and Lumen flanked her, while the dark obsidian dragon prowled the outer hedge like a storm tethered only by will. "Kira," Eve said. "Tell him all of it." The headmistress nodded once, and then she spoke the cultural truth most outsiders never heard. When a man shelters unblooded fox kin with his body before witness, the clans read it as den foundation. If the children return that shelter willingly, it becomes den binding. Cole blinked slowly. "Meaning?" "Meaning," Kira said. "You are not reluctant den father by nickname." She placed her hand over her heart. "You are den father by law." The words hit like a second impact, not painful, but vast. Cole stared at her, stunned. "I haven't earned that." Rhea looked up sharply. "You bled for us." "To earn a den is simple," Tamsin said. "To keep it is hard." Mira added softly, "You stood before we asked." "That is earning." He tried to speak, but couldn't. Not because he rejected the title, but because somewhere deep in him, something that had long been starved recognized the shape of being needed again, not as tool, not as soldier, not as weapon. As shelter. Evelyn watched his expression change, and something gentler crossed her own. "He thinks he is unworthy of what he has already become," she murmured to Kira. The headmistress nodded. "Then he must learn worth here before the clans arrive." "Clans?" Cole repeated. Kira exhaled. "A den claim inside an academy is rare. It triggers council review. The elders will come to confirm the bind. You will be summoned." Cole stiffened. "Summoned for what?" "To prove your fitness to remain," she said. "And if they decide I'm not?" Kira met his eyes without flinching. "They will remove you." The silence that followed had teeth. "Remove," Tamsin echoed low. "Not exile," Mira whispered. Rhea's claws clicked against the stone. Panic shaped like purpose. "They will take him from us?" Kira didn't soften it. "Yes," Tamsin's hackles rose. "No," Myra shook her head, tears glassing her eyes. "They cannot. He stays." Rhea leaned forward, forehead nearly to his shoulder. "He is ours," she said, and that was the moment Cole understood. They weren't afraid of losing a protector. They were afraid of losing home. Kira stood. He must be prepared before the elders arrive. He must learn what it means to be keystone to a den. He must know the rules he has triggered, or he will break them without meaning to, and be stripped away. Cole looked up. "Why would they take me for breaking rules? I don't know." "Because power fears what it did not choose," Evelyn said gently. This was not political. This was primal. The council cannot control primal. "So they'll try to bury it," Cole whispered. "No," Kira said. "They will try to own it." Those words landed heavier than threat. Ownership, not removal, a worse fate than exile. A conscripted guardian. A puppet father. Cole felt a slow pulse of something like old battle clarity, not adrenaline, not rage, commitment. "What do I do?" Evelyn answered first this time. "You learn what a den father actually is." Ria's voice trembled. And stay. Cole met her eyes. I told you, he said quietly. I don't run. The three cadets leaned closer, not as shielded children now, but as a den closing ranks. Kira nodded solemnly. Then prepare, she said. Because when the elders come. She looked to the eastern ridge, where the sky was already bruising purple with incoming storm clouds, not weather, but escort craft. They will come to claim what you've already become. The escort craft cut through the purple horizon like blades, slow and ceremonial, not raiders this time, but elders. Older battle colors, older crests, older expectations. They came not as attackers, but as judges. The cadets gathered in the courtyard at the foot of the training grounds, standing behind Cole with their ears pinned low, not in shame, but fear they refused to voice. The elders descended in cloaked formation, tails bound in silver rings, a sign of rank and final charge. Cole stood bare-shouldered, his wound wrapped but not hidden. Kira had not permitted armor. Guardians stand unarmored, she told him. Because a den's first defense is heart, not sword. Evelyn stood off to the side with Ashwing Lumen. And the obsidian war dragon coiled. Behind her like a curtain of night with eyes. The elders formed a crescent. At the center was Elder Varys, a fox woman with fur gone silver and eyes like polished amber. She studied Cole the way hawks studied ledges from which they might push fledglings. You are the outsider, she said. Yes. Cole answered, you are the one the young called Den Father. I didn't ask them to. Children never ask a tree for shade, Varys said softly. They simply stand under it and later realize why. She stepped closer. You understand the weight of what you triggered? I am beginning to. If we ratify this bond, Varys said, you do not protect three cadets. You protect every cub born under their line. Cole's breath left him slow. That was far bigger than reputation or trial. That was lineage. And if we deny you, Varys continued, you will be removed, and the young will be told they misread shelter for chance. Tamsin bristled. We did not misread. Rhea took her hand to silence her. Mira squeezed Cole's sleeve, small, terrified gesture. Varys lifted her chin toward him. Before council judgment. You may speak. Cole looked at the three kits, one fierce, one steady, one soft, all holding their fear by the teeth. Then he looked at Varys. I didn't come here to belong, he said. I crashed. I was bleeding. I should have been a burden. Instead, your young stood behind me because I put myself in front of them. He lifted the injured arm slightly. That wasn't strategy. That was instinct. The kind that doesn't come from crown or breeding. Just from remembering what it's like to be small and unshielded in a world that doesn't wait for you to grow tall. The courtyard stilled. I can't promise I'll be perfect, Cole said. But I will stand in the space between danger and them every time. Even if no one writes my name in a registry. Even if the law never carves my place. He exhaled. They already did. He glanced back, three cadets watching him like the sun might choose not to rise. They chose before I did, he finished. I'm just catching up. Rhea's throat bobbed. Mira wiped her eyes. Tamsin stood taller than fear. Elder Varys did not speak immediately. She looked instead to the dragons. First to Ashwing, who lowered his head, not submission, approval. Then to Lumen, radiant and still. Finally to the obsidian war dragon. The biggest of the three lowered his head, all the way to the stone, and blew a single ring of dark smoke at Cole's feet. Every elder on the dais drew a breath. That, Varys murmured, is not protection, it is acknowledgement. The council bowed their heads, not to Cole, but to the testimony older than dynasties. A dragon does not ratify false guardians. Varys lifted her staff. Den Father, she said, voice ringing out across the courtyard. By instinct proven, by Fang law witnessed, by dragon mark sealed, your bond is legitimate. The cadets gasped, then launched forward all at once. Rhea wrapped one arm around his middle. Mira buried her face in his side. Tamsin gripped his shoulder like swearing an oath. They did not cheer. They exhaled like a storm they'd been holding inside had finally found ground. Varys turned to Kira. He belongs to the academy. Now until they graduate. Long enough to learn, the headmistress said. And long enough, Varys added, to be learned from. She gave Cole one last long look. You are not reluctant, she said. You are simply unfamiliar with being needed. The words landed like sunlight on frost. Then she bowed, small, formal, irreversible. Stand well then, father. The den stands with you now. And for the first time since he fell from the sky, Cole did not feel like a crash survivor. He felt like someone who had landed exactly where the world had been waiting for him. If this story touched you, subscribe for more HFY sci-fi tales where humanity protects not by conquest, but by choosing to stay. Join us for the next world, the next bond, the next human who becomes home in a place that never expected him.